Good afternoon, everybody. Diana, Sarah, and Nancy, could you unmute and join us? There you go. Hey, guys. And I'm just wait. There's Nancy. How y'all doing?
Good.
So good afternoon to everybody who's joining us. I'm Gail Letts, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this week's edition of Let's Talk. Let's Talk is a weekly program that discusses topics of finance, business, career, and health and wellness, specifically designed for professional women. But for you men who have joined us today, you are always welcome to be with us. Today, we're going to discuss the retail environment and how things are going with our small business retailers, how they're working through the current challenges and programs that are available to help. Joining us today are Nancy Thomas, President and CEO of the Retail Merchants Association, Diana Kent, Marketing and Membership Manager for the Retail Merchants Association, and Sarah Nicholas, owner of Ladles and Linens with 3 locations in Richmond, Roanoke, and Lexington, a chef and mother of 2 from Richmond, Virginia as well. For those of you who are on the phone, on the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button. And if you'd like to ask questions, just click on that and you can type your question in. But I'm really excited to start today's program. So let me start first with a couple of questions specifically for the Retail Merchants Association. But Sarah, please feel free to add anything from your perspective because I understand you're also on the board of the RMA. So first of all, for those listeners who are unfamiliar with the Retail Merchants Association, Diana or Nancy, could you give a brief overview of the organization and the kinds of organizations that are your members?
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and take that one. So simply put, RMA is really a champion of retail, and we always have been. We've been around for over 100 years, and we've provided information, support, and connections through our membership. We now, more importantly than ever, are a standing resource for retail and even in greater the retail community. So we provide access, mentorship, education, and advocacy that's targeted to the retail and small business sector. And that's probably the preponderance of our membership is businesses with under 10 employees that are more local, independent retailers. But we do have some national retailers specifically on our legislative and run the gamut. Retail is a pretty broad industry. Mm-hmm. And so that encompasses a lot of different sectors within that as well. And you may have seen our consumer-facing brand, Think Shop Buy Local, that works to highlight the importance of shopping locally and really brings the connection between our local retailers and the general public that want to support them.
Diana, how many members are in the RMA?
We're just over 400 right now.
That's huge. That's great. That's great. So thank you for answering that. How are our retailers doing right now?
It's definitely been a very challenging time for retail specifically. And as I mentioned, retail is pretty broad. So it encompasses the hospitality, restaurant, and personal service industries, which have been some of the hardest hit sectors throughout this crisis. It's important to note that our target audience, that's small and local business, are also having additional challenges. I think there's so many things mandated, whether it be forced closures, social distancing requirements, which are even harder for our smaller businesses because they're in smaller square footage. There's new outlines for PPE. So not only is it unclear for businesses on what they need to do, but it's really hard for them to have those products available. There's a lot of supply chain disruption, and all around just employee and customer safety concerns, I think, is some of the biggest challenges that they're facing right now.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, you joined RMA. First, you were on the board, I believe it was, when you were a shop owner yourself. And then you kind of as a volunteer stepped up to the plate when there was a little bit of transition taking place. I think it was right after the 2008 financial challenges. Yes. So you've seen quite a bit over these last 12 years. How are the challenges from COVID similar or different?
Yeah, thanks. And Gail, thank you for having us. This is such an honor and a treat, and welcome to all those. I hope everybody's families and yourselves are safe and healthy. So yeah, this is pretty crazy times, right? I think this is the first time I put lipstick on in 6 weeks, so thank you for that. I've really thought about this question, Gail, because, clearly in 2008, 2009, the Great Recession, that was an economic crisis. And, we as consumers lost confidence in how our investments or, mortgage, I mean, it was just a loss of confidence. So therefore, I look at it as in 2008, our economy shut off, but our stores were still open. And that's a big difference. Today, this is a health crisis. It's a pandemic. And as Diana was saying about these, these executive orders that Governor Northam has passed down, 53 and 55, I mean, it's really about shutting your business down. And that is a huge difference. And so the similarities are that there's a loss of revenue, obviously. Unemployment was caused by an economic crisis back then. Unemployment is just caused by sheer shutdown. Mm-hmm. So I think, when you look at it that way, in 2008, we had the opportunity to keep our stores open, hopefully keep as many people as we could employed, but the revenue stream was bad, but I think it's worse. It's worse in this pandemic. And I think what you're going to see is that businesses are going to come out on the other side looking much different. And I see Sarah starting to smile a little bit, but I think that they are forcing themselves to really not only think about reinventing, but also you have to think about supply chains, innovation of product. They are going to be sitting on a lot of inventory. And that inventory is going to be, deeply discounted. It's going to be out of season. Shipments are still coming in. So I think that you're going to see, this is my opinion, you're going to see a little bit of a lack of product innovation in the years to come, because they're going to be vendors are going to be sitting on so much product. They too have to release that product back into the retail environment to sell. Not everyone can sit on, and I see Sarah, nodding your head. I mean,
yeah, I think
we really need to think about that a little bit more. We have apparel retailers who are begging their designers to take current inventory and maybe add a little something to it in order for them to utilize that inventory, but make it look a tiny bit different. So this is much more domino effect than I think people realize.
Sarah, I think you were going to say something on that line.
Oh, no, I had a vendor meeting. I'm in a buying group, and we were just talking about that. Like, they're not going to be inventing new things because they need to get rid of the old things. So we were just talking about that and how we're going to like set a new norm for the consumer too. Like,
does that mean I won't have to be changing out my closet so often?
Right. Right. At least kitchen stuff, because I'm a kitchen shop. I have like, everyone always needs the same mixing bowl and the same, but some of these other types of retail, I mean, we have seasonal stuff, but we're not like apparel or something like that. Right. So it's going to be tough.
And I think, Gail, you're going to see a little bit of, I hate to say this, but, those who didn't have an online presence are realizing how important that online presence is.
Yeah.
And Diana and her team have done an unbelievable job of creating an e-commerce platform, which was created over a year, almost 2 years ago. But now it's even more important. And that has now been opened up to all our business community, retailers in particular, to hop on and to try and at least get revenue, but more important, exposure and keeping themselves in the forefront of the consumer's mind. And you may see some of these brick and mortars going strictly to online.
Yeah.
Some of them are figuring this out. And I hate to see that, because I think the in-store experience is really making an evolution in today's retail landscape. But you are going to see a much, much different look with some of these retailers.
Nancy and Diana, out of your membership base, what percentage, and you don't have to be precise, but what percentage of the retailers would you say today have online presence?
Honestly, I think it's higher than some would think. I mean, I would say 50 to 60% at least have some online presence. I think a majority, though, it's very limited. They may have a social page, they may have a small website, but it's probably not, giving them the capability to place online orders or actually let people shop their products online. So while they might have a website, it's not necessarily moving the needle for them right now. But I have to say, to Nancy and Sarah's point, is that there have been a lot of, on an optimistic side, a lot of people have been innovating and have shown a lot of resiliency and ingenuity through this. I think people are trying to move as quickly as possible to get themselves online and are trying to think about how do we redevelop things to repackage them so that we can have some revenue coming in. I mean, I think a good example would be hair salons are putting together at-home hair color kits so that women can, or men, I mean, whoever needs to, but that they can at least purchase something to do at home while they can't be open. And they're trying to just think differently about how they can still reach their customers, maintain those relationships. And the big thing is that they do really have to move online. And so many of them are having to make that happen really quickly.
I will say I'm surprised as you're talking about that. I'm surprised that I haven't been inundated with emails from the shops that I go to. When I think about it, it's very few who have reached out to me. There's one little shop in the Carytown area, and I've been marveling at them because I don't ever, now I've received a few emails from them over the years, and they are one of my favorite stores. But what they've started doing, and they turned it around so quickly, and it was just so simple and so innovative. It's a little, women's apparel boutique. And what they just started doing was taking items and putting them on the floor and folding an arm over and throwing on a sash or a belt and putting a couple pair of earrings kind of side by side or on top of the shirt and just taking pictures so that several times during the week, I am receiving an email from them with today's shopping experience. And they may, be showing off tops and sweaters or bottoms or the one thing they did I thought was absolutely fabulous was they did a video on Zoom outfits, which I just loved that. But they did it very quickly and very simply. And I'm surprised, honestly, I haven't seen that much of that. Sarah, what have you done in that regard? Because I bet you are reaching out.
Oh yeah. I'm actually surprised you haven't received more emails, or I haven't tracked you down somehow. You're in the Richmond area.
I have a funny feeling you will be.
I know, you're on my mail list now. I mean, we've been doing the same thing. We were in a unique position too that we were already doing not most, but some of these things. So we do an online shop, like Instagram story each day that has the link to the website to buy. But as far as, I mean, we've done as far as reaching out to our customers, we always did a weekly email on Sundays that we've continued to do. And like, here's what's trending this week. It's always the same. Here's what's trending. Here's a blog. Here's a recipe. Here's what's happening the rest of the week. Because we always have like a few events going on. And then on Wednesdays, we've been doing yard sales where we photograph our product on fake grass and do a yard sale. And that's been really, really, really helping us survive. And it's kind of the same thought as that boutique. But really what people seem to appreciate the most is that we actually are checking in on our customers. It's not like, here, buy this, buy this, buy this. We're sending them thoughtful emails. We're sending them, I actually have one sitting beside me, little personal letters. We're just trying to stay in front of their faces, and we do care about them, and we do know.
Sarah, you need to talk about your cooking class.
Yeah, that too. See, I almost forgot that. I'm looking down at my notes, but my notes look like a mess right now, so I'm not going to look down.
Well, we're completely off schedule right now. With
it's okay.
I like conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Wherever it goes, it goes. Yeah, so I am a chef. So I was doing cooking classes, obviously, in the shops, which isn't possible now. So we started a online or Facebook live cooking school. So we do that every Friday. We do something that, by customer request, what they want to see. And we've had a lot of really good feedback, a lot of good sales, and reached new people because it's not gone viral. I mean, I'm not, YouTube million hits, but people are starting to share it, and it's something that they can do. They get together and like Zoom and do it, and it's kind of become a party each week for some people, and it's been fun. And I think that is one thing too that will last after this pandemic as well.
I would agree. So clearly, Sarah, you are steps ahead of a lot of retailers, and the fact that you already had that environment and now you're able to take it and move forward. Besides ladles and linens, to all three of you, what are some of the most innovative strategies that you're seeing right now? You see anything that really sticks out that's unusual, and you go, wow, I wish I thought of that one, or I hope people grab onto that?
Yeah, I'll start. And, first I want to readdress, Gail, your comment about you're not receiving a lot of reach out. I think that's twofold. I think one is, this is a very complex situation we're in, and I think people are really trying to get their arms wrapped around their employees, making those really hard decisions of either furloughing or laying people off. So I think you're going to see more of that. And now that the PPP, some of them have gotten their money, I think you're going to see a little bit more of the reach out. But you also have to remember their supply chains have been disrupted. So any good retailer is not going to reach out to their customers if it's going to prove to be a bad experience.
Right.
And so I think, Sarah luckily has 3 stores, so, you probably have a little bit more inventory than most, but I just wanted to comment on that. And, but a couple of really fun things are, we have this local team that makes these Bloody Mary mixes. So what they're doing is they are teaming up, I believe, and Diana, help me out, is it with some restaurants or another distillery, and they're making little packets for Sunday brunch, and they're delivering it right to your home so that you can have a really fun mimosa, Bloody Mary, and then they're partnering with a restaurant so that you can order some brunch. And so people are really, what I love is that they're not being innovative alone, they're being innovative together. And isn't that the message, that we're in this together?
Together, yeah.
And
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I think that alone tells you what a great community that we live in, that there's no proprietary product, or, people really want to work together because they're all, dealt this hardship right now. And I think it gives them much joy, and it gives them that connectivity that they need. Retailers are just social beasts to some degree, and they need that connectivity. So that was just one example.
So
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about innovation, and I have been very impressed with the articles in the Richmond Times-Dispatch and other sources. The RMA has come out with some very creative programs to support the retailers and the community at large. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because congratulations on that, by the way. You've done a fabulous job.
That's what I was trying to say. They were doing it too. That's what I was trying to say when you were.
Okay, Sarah, you go.
No. I just wanted to make sure they got their credit, because I'm also in the Carytown Merchants Association, and I mean, including everybody. Like, if they're not a member, it's okay. Like, we're all in this together. It's been awesome for our group of people too. So, but the website, Think Shop Buy Local, can't speak right now. Everyone's really excited about that too. That's what I was trying to say. Good. You're the innovator.
Yeah, I don't know. Certainly we don't make any of these decisions alone, and we get a lot of help. I think one of the big things for us is that we were already kind of in a position to reevaluate our strategic positioning. Retail has evolved and changed so much, and I think even faster than we could have imagined in the last decade or couple decades. And the influence of online and all of this other stuff, and consumer expectations are evolving, that retail is really having to rapidly change. And so we know, as an association that serves that industry, we already knew some changes needed to be made. So we've had some advisors come in and help us out prior to this. And then this crisis has really accelerated so many of those things for us. And the first thing that we did was we a decision made by our board to suspend membership dues for the next 6 months. And, that is how we operate right now, is from membership dues. And we felt it was extremely important for us to lower all barriers and allow any retailer who needs help during this time to have access to those resources. So where in the past it may have been more exclusive, we want to be inclusive as possible and make sure that we keep the retail sector intact on the other side of this. I feel like it's our duty to really make sure we understand what the key challenges are, that we're communicating to our government officials what those are, and that we're advocating on behalf of an entire industry that we want to make sure comes out the other side.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the key is also delivering trusted, accurate information. And that's what we do. We don't want to backstroke and pull back an email and say, oops, we were kidding. Or so, I think that's where we're really, and this RMA team is all working 24/7. I mean, there have been many Saturday nights where I'm texting people saying we need to get this information out, either first thing in the morning but we have a team that's vetting it, our lobbyists are vetting it. We're going to all different resources, but it's really about being a trusted resource so that people can rely upon the information that we're getting and the resources that we're providing: free membership, free access, free online presence. And like Diana said, you said it so well, we're in this together. It's inclusive, because retail, as we all know, is, consumer goods is 70% of our GDP. We have to get the retail industry strong as we come out of this.
So, a couple of weeks ago, the SBA and the banking world launched a program to help small businesses, and very quickly the money was used up. In some cases, it went to larger companies that have returned, and my compliments to those companies who basically said, we're just trying to stockpile it for a rainy day, but there are other people who need it more, and they've turned it back. There are an awful lot of small businesses and retailers that had applications in and didn't get the assistance that they needed. So this week, another program was launched. I know, unfortunately, the launching of it was not very good. And when I say not very good, that is not meant to be a judgmental statement. It's more simply a statement of fact. Everybody is having to create programs so quickly, and it's better to get it out and see if you can make it work quickly and get the access. And if not, you'll figure it out. I know this was a rough week, though, at the beginning of the week with the latest program from the SBA. Have things improved? Have you heard anything about that?
Nobody else
Nancy?
is talking, so I guess I will.
Okay.
Well, first of all, Gail, you have been such a magnificent leader in the banking industry for 35 years. So you, of all people, know what it means to have deeply rooted relationships with your clients. And I think, look, this infusion of money is needed, but it didn't go without consequences and some inefficiencies.
Yeah.
And I think the lenders, whereas they're trying to remove barriers, I think the lenders don't have enough information sometimes to help their clients through this process, or they're all just waiting in a queue. So technology problems with the SBA. I mean, who knew they'd be doing thousands of loans within days?
Yeah.
So it's been rough this week. The SBA website has pretty much been crashed most of the week. We have lenders who, for example, would start, kind of at 9 a.m. in the morning, we're trying to process, and by 4, maybe 3 went through. Whereas before, hundreds were getting done in a day. So it's, I think everybody's doing the best they can. I think we all need to kind of take a pause and have some grace and forgiveness, because it's not a perfect We're not in a perfect situation. Could there be big enhancements and improvements? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's going to be rough. And we still have some, some businesses that are trying to get in the queue to get some money. And they're still waiting. We have members who have put applications in 2.5 weeks ago that are still waiting to hear.
First of all, thank you for presenting those comments in such a balanced way and asking people to be tolerant, because no one's ever had to. I will say, and I'll always be a banker at heart. And through both round 1 and round 2 of the SBA loans, the folks who didn't get money were pointing the fingers at banks and other people. Everybody, there's such a frustration level. People want so much to blame somebody else just out of frustration, because it's easy to have a target rather than, it's better to have a target to them than not have anything at all to aim at, from a frustration standpoint. But the reality of it is we've never dealt with something like this on this magnitude. So, for anybody who is on the phone, who is in that pool trying to get money, first of all, you can apply to more than one through one bank. That was a big question that I got frequently. And there was actually a segment yesterday morning on the Today Show, and they were interviewing somebody from the SBA and said, you can go to multiple banks and try to do this. Everybody's doing their best and still being very tied to the banking community. And I do sit on a board for a community bank. I do know that the financial institutions are doing their absolute best, and they understand the pain that their customers, their clients are going through. So any other federal relief programs that you're aware of? Do you think more is going to come out of this?
Yeah, I do. It has to.
Yeah.
I think, of course, the unemployment benefits of, pulling back on the waiting period to apply, and then this additional $600. Unfortunately, though, that has some unintended consequences attached to it.
I wanted to ask Sarah about that.
I think Sarah can probably give you a real life example of that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. It sounded, to an awful lot of people, and there's a lot of talk in the marketplace about the unemployment benefits and then the additional $600.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard some negative stories about that.
Yeah, I actually, feel free to roll your eyes, but I actually had everyone come back, which thank God, they're awesome people. And that's why, they're with me. But most businesses, I would say, are struggling to get the employees back just because they're making more on unemployment, significantly more in most cases. So yeah, I'm trying to answer this without.
But Sarah, there's also consequences for those employees, because even though they're making $24 an hour is probably the number that we all hear, that's not going to last forever, and so they're taking a huge risk.
Right, and that's what I've been telling a couple businesses that have come to me like, how are you handling the PPP? Everyone doesn't, nobody really knows how that's going to get forgiven, I don't think. I just say, unemployment's not going to be forever. They're going to have to reapply, and you're going to have to hire somebody because you have your PPP money and you've got to spend it. So, potentially they could be not coming back to a job.
Right. Exactly.
So, and that's what I'm seeing a lot of, unfortunately. And then, it's stressful to the business owner as well, because, 75% of that has to go to payroll.
Yes.
So, it's a lot to figure out. But I was very fortunate to have people come back. But I can see, definitely, I see it happening to other businesses for sure.
Yeah, it's when we launched this series, the Let's Talk series, what we really want to convey to people, and I think this topic is beautifully suited for that, is there's a lot of decisions that every single one of us has to make. And you have to, when there's money handed in front, dangled in front of your eyes, think about the consequences of that. think, are you the person who needs it versus the other person who really needs it? But also if you become reliant on it and don't accept going back to work sooner rather than later because it's a little too comfortable, every forecast says we are already into a much higher unemployment rate, and businesses are going to look for people who want to work.
Right.
So there are consequences to all of that. So that's a little bit of my preaching, just because the whole topic is a little controversial. Nancy, you look like you're going to say something.
Well, Gail, there's so many other resources besides the federal resources that are available. I mean, there are all sorts of, small business, minority, women-owned, veteran-owned resources out there that people can apply to on top of, applying for the PPP and the EIDL and all that. So I think, we push those out as soon as we get them. But there are several, and it could be a grant just as, $5,000, but $5,000 is a lot of money. It could be someone's rent.
It's your
I'll just add to that, there's that difference between, there are a lot of resources that, while they might be smaller monetary amounts, but they're grants. So there is no expectation of repayment, that are helping these smaller businesses. I think there's a lot of people trying to pool their resources, and there's a lot of information out there, and we're trying to kind of filter that down and direct people to the right places.
Hey, Diana, why don't you talk about the community too? I think that's a nice resource for people.
Yeah, I think, something that we launched a couple of years ago and have really found a lot of value in the last couple months in particular, is our online community, where members can go on and ask questions. We've actually opened it up so you don't even have to be a member at this point, and that you can sign in, and it's really, targeted to the retail industry. So you can ask those specific retail questions, and we can also kind of tailor it off. So if there's some of those more private or sensitive questions, that we can put those behind closed doors, so that our members can feel comfortable having some of those more sensitive conversations around employment and stuff like that, that you maybe don't want out publicly. But really, the community is a great way for retailers to connect with one another. And I think it's very similar to this, where it's very conversational. It's nice because you can access it at any time when it's convenient for you, but really learn from one another, which is really a big principle of what we're built on.
I think there's a lot of good things that are going to come out of this. It's pain, without a doubt, but I do think that there are the coming together of the community is without a doubt one of the strongest. So I'd like to shift the topic just a little bit to go to Sarah, because Sarah, you have the most intriguing background. FBI, then you went to culinary school, then you became a chef.
Yes.
Then you had a show on PBS, and then you moved to Richmond, and you now have 3 stores. That's an unusual career journey. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Some might have say I have trouble focusing. Isn't true. Some days it is. So when I graduated college, I went almost directly into the FBI, and actually started off in Winchester, Virginia. And from there, I'm always like looking for, I guess that does mean I lack focus. I don't know, but I'm always looking for the next challenge. And so I, did it for 6 years, worked in Indian country, had a lot of like cool experiences, but I married another FBI person, and we moved to New York City, and I got stuck on a drug and gang squad in the middle of Long Island. And I was like, no, this isn't my forever place. So I'd always wanted to cook and been decent at cooking. So I was like, well, I'm living in New York City, so now's the time. So jumped ship, went to culinary school and started working in restaurants and having a baby. And that wasn't something I wanted to do forever either. So I always wanted to come back to Virginia because that's where I'm born and raised. So moved back to Virginia and had the opportunity to buy 3 businesses already existing. That Ladles and Linens have been around since 1997. So I took over 3 stores and kind of tried to make them my own. I've only owned them for 3 years, and retail is not for the faint of heart. So still trying to navigate this, and this just makes it all the more exciting. It's my next big challenge. I'm not happy unless I'm running towards something, like a, monkey in a bushfire or something. But yeah, I guess, yes, it isn't, people are very intrigued by my past, but I kind of find that, segueing into a question that you had proposed earlier, like I kind of find that all of these experiences have prepared me for what is happening today, because I've always been a person that, one, likes to learn new things, and I like change, which I think is unusual in most people. I like change, I like adapting, I like trying new things. So yeah, this is where I'm at, and I doubt this will be my last stop on the.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. So in March, 60% of all the people who lost their jobs were women. And my guess is, and there are lots of articles that are being written about this as we speak, that women will economically be more adversely impacted coming out of this. My guess is there is going to be a lot of women who are going to be sitting back as they go through this thinking, okay, so what am I going to do next? What is my plan? What advice do you have for them?
Oh my God, that's a big question. Well, don't be scared to do something that you haven't done before. I know this sounds so cliche, but this is kind of how I make a lot of my decisions. I always think, like, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And then I do that.
That's a great question.
So, I mean, if you set yourself up like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, then you are going to fail. So what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And do that. And there are so many resources out there. No matter what you want to do, I mean, obviously you need to do something, unique and in your own way, but there's a resource out there for whatever you want to do. Like, rely on others, ask lots of questions, like, just go for it. I don't know how else to answer that question, because that's kind of.
Gail, you've afforded with your new company. I mean, let's face facts. I mean, let's consult. That's what you're going to be all about for women and young professionals. And I'm not talking about, folks our age. I'm talking about, Sarah. I mean, I'm talking about people who are yearning, and sometimes the only way they're pushed in that direction is when something like this happens, and it forces them to jump off the board. And your company is going to allow women to dig deep, reconnect with themselves, and figure out their next journey. So I just want to thank you for this, because it's such a gift to have a woman leader focus on women.
I really, so for the audience, you may think that was planted, and most
it was
certainly
not planted.
And
no, it wasn't
really
planted at all.
That. And it's interesting, as you know, Nancy, better than anybody, this vision of this company that is women supporting women, women helping women, women advancing and growing in business, that would close the gaps, whether it be on health disparity or pay inequity, or we get more women into the C-suites, we get more women onto corporate boards. I'm a real believer that if we join together as women, we can make a difference to close those gaps faster. I was saying to somebody the other day that, the company is about women supporting women. It's about lifting women up. It's not about tearing men down. This is about what we can do to control. And the people who have reached out to me, and we're just getting started, and for those who are on the phone, you'll hear so much more about it as we really get our legs. Now, I will say, we thought we had our game plan planned for all of 2020, and late this morning, my COO Kate Meachin and my VP of Sales Candace Mraz, we got together and we said, okay, we got to pivot here, because we were planning to go in this direction, and now we have to go in another direction, and we have to do it quickly, and we've got to figure it out. that's life right now. And I think we're all kind of living through that. You know, one of the people that I worked for years ago would say to me that when he put people on his executive team, he always looked for people not with the IQ, but with their AQ, the adaptability quotient.
Mhm.
And that if people couldn't demonstrate constant ability to adapt, they were not going to be successful long term. And I've always taken that to heart. Didn't realize this was going to be, first of all, starting a company in the pandemic is not a wise thing to do. And yet I know I'm not alone in that regard. And
Actually, a good time.
Pardon?
Mhm.
You go in a completely different direction.
Well, and you know what? So I'd gone to a fabulous program up in DC a couple months ago, and the woman, Professor Rosabeth Cantor, who is the founder of the Kennedy Center at Harvard University for Women's Initiatives in Public Policy, she was talking about reinventing yourself. And she talked about the passion that goes with that. And she said, you know, but if you start a company, and it wasn't necessarily geared towards people starting a company, but I took away that she was talking to me the entire time. I just believed it.
Of course she was.
Of course. And what she said to me, what she said to the audience was, you know, if you do start your own company and follow a passion, just remember that what the company is going to look like in 3 years from the time you started is going to be entirely different if you're doing it the right way. So right now it's feeling I must be doing it the right way since we're having to pivot so much.
Yeah, you know, may I ask a question, Diana? I don't mean to blindside you, but you know, you're and Sarah, you're both young professionals. You have a wide net of women, men, your age. What are you hearing out there with people? Are they thinking about kind of recreating themselves and moving on, or what are you guys hearing? I'm just so curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think, you know,
You're not going anywhere, by the way, but you know.
yeah, luckily I'm not having to right now, but I appreciate that we work in such a dynamic organization that I feel like I kind of get to reinvent my role and responsibilities throughout my tenure here. So I've learned a lot, and I think that that's kind of the thing that people yearn for in a career path, is that you're constantly learning or adapting, and you're not stagnant. And I've been able to experience that. I think people are looking to recreate themselves. I think people are having to pivot. They're pushing themselves. You know, I think we even see it with our retailers too, who are thinking long-term, what are the changes that they're going to have to make, and really making their business models look really different than what they started out as. I think to Gail's point, it's going to be some long-term ripple effects from everything that's happening now. And it is kind of that statement of never waste a crisis. You know, people have the opportunity to pivot quickly and make those tough decisions that they would otherwise probably have more reservations and risk around.
Sarah, I saw you had something to add to that as well. Thank you, Diana.
I always have something to add. Good job, Diana. I'm glad you started off with that, because I was like, oh, I don't know what to say. I actually have a personal example. I've already started something new during the pandemic. I know, shocking.
Is this an announcement?
I'm not going anywhere from ladles. But like, you know, we have a bunch of seasonal stuff. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, how are we going to get rid of all this Easter and spring stuff? And by the time we come back, like our Christmas stuff is already arriving in August, believe it or not, July and August. And we've been able to cancel all those orders, but I'm like, people are still going to be craving something for Christmas, right? So I've taken all of our flour sack towels and I'm starting to draw designs and hand block them and sell them. So we have Christmas stuff that didn't cost me any extra that we can sell at Christmas.
That's so...
I mean,
that's the pivot.
Gotta, yeah, because I'm like, I'm gonna be sitting on all this stuff, and then people won't want it. They'll want Christmas, and I can't afford Christmas. So what am I gonna do? So, you know, just looking ahead, and I have a lot of friends that have finally started doing their blogs and their online like Etsy stores and that kind of thing. And Rachel, who works for me, she's starting her garden blog. I mean, people are realizing, oh, I need to do this now, because one, people are on the internet and they're looking for something to do. And so I've had a lot of friends that are my age that are starting new things during the coronavirus. So
I think that's absolutely fabulous. So I'm going to change the topic one more time as we come up at 2:45. which goes to the topic. I know, Sarah, you have two young kids at home. So I was on a Zoom happy hour the other day, and several of the other women who are on the call or the video with us said, you always hear about it takes a village to raise a child. Right now, it's taking a vineyard to homeschool a child. I'd love to know, how is homeschooling going for you, Sarah? And
I actually love it, which I know is unusual, but of course I have my frustrations. I have a kindergartner who is dyslexic, so I've had to learn fast how he learns, which has been troublesome to me. But I think the biggest thing is, like, teachers are sending these lesson plans, and that's great. But I find, 1 hour of schoolwork, 1 hour of play, 1 hour of schoolwork, 1 hour of play, and not necessarily doing everything they ask me to do, but like taking them outside to dig holes for me to put flowers in, and like, let's talk about how these flowers are going to grow. Like, just trying to sneak back door into the school learning, I guess, is what I've been trying to do. But it's like anything else. It's just your new norm, and everyone's got to figure it out. The first 2 weeks, I felt we're all going to kill each other and no one's going to make it out alive. But now everybody's used to it, and we're on a schedule now, and it's fine.
good, fabulous, fabulous. So, do we have any questions?
Answer them all.
People were probably just laughing at all. It was just having, these are the kind of conversations we would just have if we were sitting around on the patio with a glass of wine in our hand. So I'm not seeing any questions right now, but so any last words of wisdom? Recognizing that the majority of people who are on the phone are professional females. Many of them are doing homeschooling while juggling the schedules. Many of them are probably sensing, if it hasn't already happened, some major changes wherever they are working. And they're trying to figure out, what is that going to mean? We did get a question. It says, should I limit my inventory purchases to save expenses? Or should I order so I am up and running when we reopen? Great question.
I am limiting.
Okay.
That is what I'm personally doing. But yeah, I mean, they're probably in the same situation as me. It's like, we got to get rid of inventory, but then people aren't going to be interested in that inventory. So find creative ways to move it now. Discount it now. Move on with your life. That's what I would say.
Take the lumps.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, vendors are very eager to move their supply chain, and they're being creative, innovative too. And you just need to have honest conversations with them, negotiate.
Yeah.
And, they all used to put minimum orders on us. Remember, Sarah? And now, that's out the window.
It is.
So I think people just have to really start those conversations now, so that shipping has been disrupted as well, that you want to make sure you have the product that you envision in your store at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. We have actually reordered some stuff, but it's things that, like, oh my God, everybody in America is making bread.
Yeah.
Everybody. We literally sold out of all of our bread stuff like the first week of this pandemic. So we've reordered some things, but just being really strategic. And soda stream refills, very strategic about, what is going to move. Don't buy anything that you don't know is going to move.
And you can order frequently because the inventory is there. So the supply chain, remember, it's all about supply chain.
And they're like $100 reorders versus like $1,500 reorders. So yeah.
And I have heard that. I've heard that the vendors are being a lot more reasonable.
Yes.
Which I think is a good thing.
Yeah. And the ones that aren't, then they're not going to survive after this.
No.
Yeah.
No, I would agree 100%. So it is now 2:50, and we try to keep these to right around this hour. Sarah and Diana and Nancy, it's always a pleasure to be talking with the three of you. Diana and Nancy, thank you so much for what you are doing for the community, for the Retail Merchants Association, its membership, and for those who aren't members. Sarah, you've got a fabulous background, and I can't wait to watch the next step. You can start including me on those invites and those e-bites, and I promise that I will be a client of yours, a customer of yours in the future.
Yeah, we're making Friday.
So next week, we're actually going to talk about handling anxiety and stress. Not that there's any of that going on right now. Homeschooling and business challenges. And we have therapist Alice Ginsberg and Ryan Lofchi, who was the principal at the Frontier Project. So they will be joining us next week. It should be a great conversation. Again, Sarah, Diana, Nancy, thank you so much for joining us. To everybody who's been on the call today, I want to say thank you for joining us, and please stay healthy and safe. And I hope that you'll be joining us next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Gail.
Bye now.
Bye.
Are we supposed to stay on?